Diversity,
of Iran.
Equity and Inclusion
There is
Awards.
this group,
Iran.
the so-called
The event will be
Jaish
held in English
al-Adl,
with
which is an
simultaneous
Iranian
interpretation
terrorist
into
group.
Spanish, French,
They
and
have
Portuguese.
taken shelter in some
You can access
provinces
the different channels
inside
in the
Pakistan.
chat. Now, I would like to introduce the Executive Vice President
The exchange of
the
strikes has
Inter-American
sparked a
Development Bank
diplomatic
and
crisis.
chair of our
Islamabad
Diversity,
recalled its ambassador
Equity
to
and
Iran
Inclusion
and stopped
Advisory
his
Group,
Iranian
Jordan
counterparts from
Schwartz. Welcome, Jordan. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be hosting this event. Celebrates outstanding IDB group employees who actively champion diversity, equity, and inclusion within our organization and across projects in the region. We're an institution dedicated to improving the quality of life of people throughout our incredibly diverse region. Living our corporate commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is a defining feature of our work. From the way we approach human resources, hiring, and recognition, to our approach to prioritizing, programming, project design, and execution, to our analytical and knowledge work on equity and equality, poverty and access, and to the policies of fairness and equity that we work on with our client governments. It should be obvious that for us to fight for everyone in this region, particularly the poor, the vulnerable, the marginalized, those seeking the opportunities that the region's rich resources and abilities should be able to afford to all, we need to invest in our own people with the same passion and commitment for equity and diversity and inclusiveness. Today marks our 7th annual celebration of the DEI Awards, and I'm delighted to be joined by Judith Morrison. Judith is the Operations Advisor for the Office of the Presidency and the 2022 IDBG Headquarters Diversity Champion, as well as to be joined by those of you watching online. Last year, we achieved important progress in gender parity. I wanted to highlight, we met our 2023 targets of 43% women in grades 4 and above for IDB and 39% in grades C and above for the IDB Invest, which represent senior positions within the IDB group. Additionally, half of our 28 country offices are led by women, representatives and general managers alike. We still have a way to go in terms of more representation of Indigenous peoples, of Afro-descendants, LGBTQ plus persons and people with disabilities. Our new DEIB framework emphasizes viewing diversity through an intersectional lens. The winners I'm about to introduce have contributed significantly to this agenda, demonstrating, for example, how our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion drives innovation. The awardees were selected by a panel of 7 leaders from different areas and roles in the organization. We have two categories, champions and teams, and 2 winners within each, so 4 in total, if my math is right. We are proud to share the inspiring stories of these colleagues who lead by example, driven by their passion and their drive to create inclusive solutions. Without further ado, let's meet our 2023 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award winners. Judith?
Thank you so much, Jordan. I'm so excited to present to you our very first winner of the afternoon. This person has taken on the responsibility of supporting colleagues through her voluntary work in the Employee Resource Group, of which she is now president. Her passion and energy to achieve equity and inclusion for LGBTQ colleagues make her deserve the award, and many other colleagues as well. Let's take a look at the video.
As I reflect on my years at the IDB, it's clear to me the tremendous power policies have on people's lives. When I joined the bank, IDB Globe didn't exist. Gay marriage was not yet legal in the United States, and even the most confident colleagues wouldn't openly discuss their sexual orientation. A year later, the IDB began recognizing domestic partnerships. that small policy shift allowed our LGBTQ plus families to be visible at the bank for the first time. The policy, which had previously reserved benefits for our straight colleagues, was then extended to LGBTQ plus staff, allowing them to have family healthcare coverage and immigration support. Having identified the disparate experiences and impacts of travel and relocation for IDB LGBTQ plus staff, I worked in coordination with HRD to launch the Safe Mobility Initiative to support bank management and staff to better identify, plan for, manage, and talk about the contrasting experiences and impacts of travel and relocation. Similarly, I coordinated with BDA to implement accessible bathroom signs on all single-unit bathrooms in IDB headquarters and country offices. As a DEI champion, I am proud to continue to push for policy change that will make the diversity of our community more visible and the IDB group a more inclusive workplace. My own experiences at the bank show me that there is still work to be done. As a two-time breast cancer survivor, I had access to gender-affirming breast reconstruction surgery after my mastectomy. Similar surgeries are still denied to staff and to IDB group family members who have a different medical basis for seeking this treatment. When my wife and I decided to become parents, we did not qualify for the same level of fertility support services that my straight colleagues received under our medical plan. I have been working with Globe and management to change these policies. They have not yet changed, but they should. Benefiting from DEI policies empowered me to advocate for visibility and equitable benefits for all IDB Group staff. It clarified that the bank's mission of improving lives extends to how we operate. Of equal importance, it made my colleagues and I feel safe to show the fullness of who we are. And oh, how incredibly beautiful we all are in our diversity.
The winner of this year's Headquarters DEI Championship Award is Dana King. By the way, Dana is also the new president of our employee resource group, Globe. Dana, it is so moving and inspiring to be sitting here with you today to see how you took your personal experiences and made things better for those behind you, and how you've contributed to the visibility and the importance of your work here at the IDB.
Thank you so much.
You're truly an inspiration, and I want to ask you the first question, which is around visibility. How do you think the IDB group as a whole can do more to provide visibility and support for these important issues of inclusion?
Thanks, Judith. I think that's a very important question. Over the last several years, the bank has really worked to visibly show their commitment to DEI. So for the first time, I think it was 3 years ago, we hung pride flags in front of the bank. And those types of statements transmit to people inside and outside the bank that it's okay to be LGBTQ here, and that that's part of who the bank is. And I think continuing that culture change is critical. And I think it's even more critical to continue doing the substantive work of updating our policies to reflect the realities of the people and families that work here in the bank. So some of the issues I mentioned in my video, which have come out of conversations that have been enabled because we've had this kind of slow culture change at the bank, are conversations that need to continue. And as we shift policies, it will let people know, not just rhetorically, but also in substance, the bank stands behind us as an LGBT community and is committed to making sure that we are and feel safe wherever we're working for the IDB.
Thank you so much, Dana. How do you think these advancements contribute to creating a more inclusive and enabling environment for all employees?
You know, I think some of what I've found is, as I've begun working on these initiatives with colleagues, is that in fact, my concerns are not my concerns just as an LGBT person, but they're concerns that are shared by other persons in the bank with other identities. So for example, the Safe Mobility Initiative It started because of my experience working outside of the US and dealing with situations where I didn't always feel comfortable showing up as my full self. And I've talked with colleagues, other Afro-descendant colleagues who are women, who've had similar experiences but haven't felt that they have the language or a safe place to have that conversation with their bosses or with management. And so I think moving forward this conversation, for example, around mobility, will allow other colleagues with distinct concerns to come forward and also begin to voice what their experiences are.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dana, for being a trailblazer and taking bold initiative to make change here at the bank. We'd like to invite those of you who are not yet familiar with GLOBE, our employee resource group, to please join Dana, the new president.
Please join.
And become part of the GLOBE network. Thank you so much, Dana. And what I'd like to do now is to hand the mic over back to Jordan.
Thank you.
Dana. I get to announce the first winning team. Okay, but first, just a little bit about it. The first winning team brings us a sample of what intersectionality and inspiration for the projects we develop at the IDB throughout the region. I can't tell you too much more about it without it being a spoiler. So we're going to watch a little video like we did about Dana before we actually announced it was Dana who won. So let's watch a little video.
Nuestro país es extraordinariamente diverso en términos culturales. Alberga una gran variedad de grupos étnicos. Incluyen poblaciones indígenas, mestizas y afrodescendientes. Cada grupo tiene su propia lengua, vestimenta, cosmovisión y prácticas culturales distintivas. Sin embargo, debido a factores históricos y estructurales, enfrentan desigualdades sistémicas que crean disparidades en educación, acceso a servicios básicos, oportunidades laborales, participación política, entre otros. Estas brechas se acentúan cuando se trata de población femenina, ocasionando una clara desventaja para las mujeres y creando un ambiente donde situaciones de violencia de género son factibles. A esto se suma que los impactos del cambio climático afectan en mayor proporción a las mujeres, particularmente a las más pobres. Para nuestro proyecto, creamos sinergias entre las divisiones de cambio climático y recursos naturales y desarrollo rural, con 4 alcaldías de municipios con altos indicadores de seguridad alimentaria y pobreza, la Federación de Cooperativas Indígenas de las Verapaces, 40 líderes comunitarios, de los cuales 80% eran mujeres, y 5.717 beneficiarios indígenas, buscando la inclusión de poblaciones vulnerables a modelos exitosos de gestión forestal sostenible. Después, el enfoque de género y diversidad fue aplicado en 2 aspectos muy importantes. Impartir todo en el idioma local, respetando las tradiciones de cada pueblo indígena, y la promoción de un cambio de comportamiento para prevenir la violencia contra la mujer. Logramos que 2.674 productores indígenas, 83% mujeres y 17% hombres, tengan acceso a asistencia técnica, incluyendo crianza de animales de especies nativas y el manejo de cultivos agroforestales con valor agregado, generando además productos orgánicos bajo certificaciones internacionales. Nuestra experiencia en el BID nos lleva a concluir que los conceptos de diversidad, género e inclusión son catalizadores para una evolución personal. Diariamente trabajamos en un ambiente inclusivo, basado en un diálogo abierto y respetuoso que ofrece espacio a todas las voces. Esto nos permitió embarcar en un proceso de transformación y así nos fuimos convirtiendo en defensores activos de las dimensiones de diversidad, género e inclusión para promover la acción climática, propiciando un cambio colectivo que modificó la mentalidad de nuestra esfera de influencia, tanto dentro como fuera de la oficina. En este viaje identificamos que, en los equipos inclusivos, se mejora el ambiente laboral y se impulsa la creatividad y la innovación. Por esa razón, también promovemos iniciativas que busquen mejorar las oportunidades económicas y resiliencia climática de poblaciones diversas mediante el empoderamiento de grupos que tradicionalmente han enfrentado barreras. Hemos sido testigos de cómo el enfoque inclusivo tiene el poder de romper patrones preestablecidos y abrir puertas a nuevas oportunidades para personas que se encuentran en algún tipo de desventaja. Comprometámonos a construir un mundo más diverso, equitativo, inclusivo y resiliente al clima para las generaciones futuras.
Our second winners are a team from Guatemala for their project Mujeres Maya Quechíes y Tortillas, ¿no? Más o menos. Empresarialidad y resiliencia climática para reducir la pobreza. Let's learn a bit more about this winning team. Some of them are here with us today, coming from Guatemala to join us. So let's please welcome Aime Sosa, por favor. Omar Samayoa, María José Leiva, no está, Hulda Salguero, gracias Hulda, y María Isabel Sandoval. Congratulations on this achievement, and thank you very much for joining us today. Yo tengo un par de preguntas para explicar un poco la trayectoria del programa importante que ustedes han diseñado. ¿Cómo puede este caso ayudar a generar
We want to learn a little bit about your project. How can this case help to generate other cases, other successes? Well, thank you. Maria Jose Leiva, I wanted to let you know, is also part of the team, and she couldn't be with us because she's off on maternity leave. So we have several key elements that are part of this case that can be applied to other conditions and that are fundamental as well, especially since most indigenous peoples and most local communities share the same development challenges and also high vulnerability to climate change. So we need to strengthen local governance to help coordinate and organize these groups. Let's remember that many of them have gone through conflicts, wars, and generally at a local level, local governance is not well organized. The second important element is bringing back some of their local practices, their ancestral techniques and practices, also how we focus on technical and financial assistance that we provide needs to be seen through this lens. And we need to highlight that most of the solutions to the challenges that these groups face are already there in those territories. We don't need to bring solutions from outside. In the territories, there is knowledge, there is experience, there are resources that we need to strengthen. And this is one of the elements that we've focused on. And a third element is cultural belonging from the point of view of training, technical assistance, the type of practical or productive practices that we have, the language in which these resources are provided. So over 3,000 indigenous women benefited from economic empowerment initiatives. Over 6,000 producers, men and women, are now working about 10,000 hectares in agroforestry projects, and many indigenous families are now generating $1.7 million in income from the production and the sale of organic coffee and cardamom, also meat surplus products from animals that are adapted to extreme conditions such as drought. Thank you. We have another question. We know that there's a perfect recipe for success, and it comes after trying many different things. In the case of this project, what are the main impacts that the project has had in terms of diversity and inclusion? Thank you, Jordan, for that question. In terms of the impact on diversity and inclusion, I think the numbers show that we basically targeted the indigenous population. Practically 100% of the beneficiaries are indigenous people. And in addition to that, this is a population that was in poverty or extreme poverty, and they live in territories that are very vulnerable to climate change. So this shows that this is a highly inclusive project. And I'd like to underline that beyond the numbers and the percentage of who participated, I think inclusion goes beyond that. We can see that in the economic impact we've had. These are projects that help to improve the income of families, and these are families, many of them live on less than $1 a day. It's difficult to imagine that kind of situation. And just as an anecdote, when we approved one of the phases of this project, we thought, how is it possible that a person can improve their lives if we provide $100 to them or help them generate $300 a year? Well, this to them means a doubling of their income, and this can impact other areas as well. Food security, for example, these are territories where there is a high level of food insecurity, and just having food that they produce themselves, it's for their own consumption in many cases, has also had a positive impact. And we saw it in a study that took place where we were able to see that the families that participated in this project, and girls in particular, showed an increase in their growth simply because of this improved access to quality protein. In this case, it's animal protein. And finally, for me, I think the most significant impact is here. In many cases, we put these families or these women in this case in the position of a victim, and we try to change that paradigm a bit and show them as people who are active, who have agency, who can solve their own problems. They are active participants. They are not passive recipients of anything, and this generated an enormous change, and we can still see it in the families and the women. I remember the first meetings we held with these groups, especially with the women. They would not look us in the eye. They'd look down at the floor. Now, after the project, you can see how these women have become leaders. They've changed. So I think if we could scale this up to the entire region, our region would definitely change significantly. They are now the protagonists of their own lives.
Your efforts demonstrate how diversity, equity, and inclusion can be a driving force for our most impactful work. Your project is a perfect example of how inclusion and diversity impact our region in different ways. And intersectionality we see is real, and we can see through a different lens the impact that it has on Indigenous women. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jordan, and thank you to the winners. I have the distinct pleasure of announcing the call for our country office DEI Champion Award winner. One of the things when we're working on challenging projects is that sometimes we think projects have to be large, immense, that we have to move mountains. This is an example of a champion who reached this space by doing what's right, by doing what's inclusive. Let's see the video and learn more about his work.
Sabemos que trabajar en el BEAD tiene muchas cosas positivas. Somos afortunados por pertenecer a una institución que busca mejorar la vida de las personas. Convivimos además con un ambiente culturalmente diverso, de trato equitativo y que busca constantemente mejorarse a sí mismo. Estos principios de diversidad, equidad e inclusión presentes en nuestro ambiente laboral me han llevado a entender que no solo a través de préstamos, proyectos y obras se mejora la vida de la gente. También en nuestro día a día, en el quehacer cotidiano, en nuestra propia rutina laboral hay un potencial enorme para impactar positivamente en la vida de otras personas. Les comparto un ejemplo. Hace un poco más de un año, la administración de la oficina de Argentina decidió enfrentarse a lo desconocido. Quiso saber qué tan accesible podía ser, tanto el espacio físico como en ciertas posiciones de trabajo para personas con distintos tipos de discapacidad. Al plantearse esta pregunta, venció así la primera barrera de exclusión, tal vez sin darse cuenta. Vinieron expertos, entre los cuales había personas con discapacidad, y realizamos todo tipo de pruebas tanto en el lugar como en los procedimientos y especialmente en las herramientas de trabajo. Los resultados fueron bastante positivos. Sin haberlo buscado, la oficina ya era accesible en algunos casos y no lo sabíamos. A partir de esto, no se perdió tiempo. Se realizaron una serie de pasantías para personas con discapacidad que no solo les permitieron tener la oportunidad de trabajar en un ambiente profesional, sino que una de las pasantes hoy en día trabaja como consultora dentro del banco. Acá se venció la segunda barrera. No hay verdadera inclusión si no hay personas con discapacidad dentro. Con muy poco, la COP logró un primer paso muy importante. Asentó la base de un proceso de inclusión muy prometedor para el futuro cercano. El BEAD tiene una oportunidad que pocos lugares tienen. No solo descubrimos que estamos más cerca de volvernos una oficina realmente inclusiva, sino que también comenzamos a comprender que hay otras formas en las cuales podemos tener un impacto significativo en nuestra sociedad. Los principios de diversidad, equidad e inclusión son la mejor brújula que podemos tener para trabajar y no dejar pasar ninguna oportunidad de mejorar la vida de las personas, tengan discapacidad o no.
Excellent. Let's welcome our third winner, Juan Ignacio Barleta. Thank you, Juan, for braving the snow. For those of you who are watching online, we have a wonderful full house here with people standing all over the sides and the back of the room, recognizing all of our champions and teams. So it's really, really exciting to have you here. You traveled the farthest distance of any of our teams. And we're so happy to have you joining us today. Your passion and determination are very clear. What we'd like to understand and learn is, how did this experience and inclusion in your country office, how was the experience? What was important? What did you learn from it?
I think that the most important thing about this experience is when the administration of the country office started this process, I'm pretty sure that they knew little or nothing about disability. And when I started working with disability, I also didn't know anything about it. And that's the best way to start working to be a really inclusive office, admitting that you know very little or nothing. So they faced this challenge, they faced this fear, and the results were wonderful, because not only we found out that our office was already pretty much accessible, or in the way to be truly accessible, but we found out a lot of people like me who wanted to pitch in and to be part of this process. So to anyone who is in your country office and you are wondering the same question, be brave enough to try the same process at your COF, and I can guarantee you that you will find the same results or even better ones. So don't be afraid and do it.
Let's do it, says Juan. Great. Thank you so much. What's the most important?
Juan nos dice, hagámoslo. Muchas gracias. ¿Cuál es el elemento más importante para que nosotros podamos ser un banco más inclusivo?
The most important element is
El elemento más importante.
work alongside with people with disabilities. You cannot be inclusive without them. And it's not just a process of hiring them and that's it. It's just to work alongside with them to be a really more inclusive people. You cannot be inclusive first and then go out and look for them. You have to make them part of this process of inclusion. You have to face these barriers together. And the good thing about this process is that you will not only improve the lives of the people with disabilities, but you will also improve the lives of the people working with them. Because when you work with people with disabilities, you learn a new whole perspective of life, of how you see things, or how you think your environment, your relationships, and that's the best thing about trying to be inclusive at your office.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That reminds me of the phrase that we hear a lot, nothing without us, nothing about us without us for persons with disabilities. So this idea and this importance of inclusion. Juan, you're truly an agent of change and you've made such a difference both inside and outside of the organization. You also did a great job in your first presentation in English. So big congratulations to you, Juan. We're very proud of your work and all that you've accomplished. I turn the mic back over to Jordan for our final and fourth exciting award of the afternoon.
Now that you've started talking about bilinguality, it's a transition to this next award. So it's an honor to present this award to a practice that was recognized in June 2023 with the Khalifa Education Award and is creating a new way to reach our youth and Indigenous communities. So let's take a look at our fourth Diversity Award of 2020.
Indigenous children in Latin America and the Caribbean face significant educational disparities, starting from pre-primary education. They lag their peers on the regional standardized test by as much as 72 percentage points. A significant factor contributing to this disparity is that instruction is often not in their native language, as teachers tend to lack language proficiency and training bilingual education. Additionally, the curriculum lacks context, lesson plans, and materials that incorporate Indigenous cultures and realities. Our model allows Indigenous children to learn in their native languages and connect to their ancestral heritage while closing learning gaps. The program uses an innovative audio methodology to address the challenge of classrooms that lack teachers with the skills required to provide quality intercultural bilingual education, pedagogical skills, proficiency in Indigenous languages and cultural knowledge. This is the world's first randomized bilingual and intercultural mathematics education experiment for Indigenous preschoolers. The students in the treatment group developed an additional half of a school year's worth of mathematics skills compared with their peers in the control group. The development of this model for intercultural bilingual education was possible thanks to the collaboration across IDB divisions and with key outside stakeholders. IDB team members from the Education and Gender and Diversity divisions in the country offices and headquarters partner with the Ministry of Education and the Organization of the Ibero-American States. But the most important collaboration was with the intellectual, pedagogical, and traditional leaders of the community, who provided critical cultural inputs and knowledge through continual participatory processes. One important lesson learned through the process is that it's critical to incorporate many Indigenous thought leaders into the construction of pedagogical programs and intercultural bilingual education. Traditional knowledge is collective and shared across diverse leaders and actors who play various roles in society. In this manner, women, ethnomathematics experts, teachers, community leaders were all critical in identifying songs, poems, games, cooking, and traditions that are relevant to this community's mathematics and thought. Latin America is a region with immense diversity. This diversity is an invaluable asset to development. As we continue to strengthen our DEI as a bank, we are better positioned to leverage the wealth of diversity in the region to advance more effective, inclusive, and sustainable development.
Let's please welcome up Emma Noslin Hadley. You brought your own crowd with you. Cynthia Hobbs and Ana Grijera. Thank you, Ana. So thank you again. Please take a seat. Oh, I see you've already taken a seat. So many schools across the regions, as I understand, are already offering some form of intercultural bilingual education. Can you tell us why you seek to change what education looks like in these schools?
That's actually a great question. Just before I respond, I wanted to recognize two integral team members who can't be here today.
Maternity leave.
No, it's actually they left the bank.
Oh, they left the bank.
Carminia Albertos, she was a diversity specialist for decades.
Yeah.
She's retired, but she was very much a part of this team. And also Horacio Alvarez, an education specialist for many years in the bank, who also has left, but I would just want to recognize them.
Oh, that was very kind. Thank you.
So, but the question, it's a very good question. Like, why do we need to do this? Did we feel a need to do this project when we have intercultural bilingual schools across the region? And I mean, this in many countries, then it's like 10% of schools are IBE schools. Peru has 25% of schools that are intercultural bilingual. So why do we need this project? The problem is that these schools, they're labeled intercultural bilingual schools, meaning that they're schools for Indigenous students. But in reality, they're often, not always, but often, they're neither bilingual nor intercultural, because the teachers assigned to teach, they don't speak the language, nor do they know the culture. So, and we know from vast research that children learn best when they can learn in the language that they understand and speak the best. So when they're with a teacher who doesn't speak their language, then we see these vast learning gaps between Indigenous students and their peers that we saw in the video, like above 70 percentage points in learning and foundational skills. And ministries of education, it's not like this is not a new problem, so they've tried to solve it for decades, trying to change the way teachers are assigned. And there are some smaller success stories, but the problem persists. So we asked ourselves, what can we do to save the kids that are in classrooms with teachers who don't speak their language? How can we help them learn today? And not have to wait till this whole system of teacher is changed, how they're assigned and trained, the teachers. And then we came up with this idea that we would use audio lessons that are like engaging. They are in 2 languages, so they mix and repeat all key concepts in 2 languages. They also mix the Western math with the ethnomathematics, so that they have math from their own culture mixed with the foreign Western math. And as you could see, we had a huge impact on learning, even though we couldn't expand the overall lesson time. We had to respect the curriculum, and it's a certain number of minutes per day that they can learn math. So we had to combine intercultural math and Western math in that same time period, and yet they improved their Western math skills and ethnomathematics skills. So yeah, it was a success, and I just want to mention one more thing, that the Minister of Education announced this year that this model is now the model for learning and pedagogy in intercultural bilingual schools in Panama. They want to expand it to more grades, which we have done with the lending operation to 1st grade. And they want to expand it also to more comarcas, but that's depending on budget issues. But that's the intention. And the Minister of Education of Peru has already developed with IDB a Quechua version, which is launching in March.
Fantastic. Congratulations. So we know that this project was sort of structured as a natural experiment and has already measurements of success and impact. And then you made a particular effort to include Ngabe, Indigenous people, in the design. Can you tell us a little bit more? Is it for Anna? Can you tell us a little bit more about how they were involved in this process? Yeah, I was told to hold it like this and speak louder, Jordan. That's what I was told.
Hello, I think. Thank you, Jordan. Well, Indigenous people's participation is fundamental to creating culturally responsive public policies that respect Indigenous people's collective rights and advance program effectiveness and efficiency. So based on that principle, the program placed Nove participation front and center from the onset of program design. As a first step, we conducted stakeholder mapping to identify key Nove actors in diverse sectors throughout the Comarca territory. So in this manner, the program was able to engage not only traditional governance structures and consultative processes, but really work hand in hand with diverse Nove leaders, which included elders, spiritual and cultural leaders, women leaders, as well as academics and teachers. So through participatory workshops with these key actors, the program was able to identify key cultural assets that would inform program design, such as the Nove math system, as well as traditional songs, stories, dances, instruments, and regional variations of landscape animals, dialects, and even traditional architecture, all which was pertinent to program development. So in this manner, Hadengo was able to provide a program to Nove students that really reflected their daily realities, celebrated their cultural heritage, and helped to strengthen their Nove identity. So participation representation was also fundamental in the technical team that developed the content. The team included Nove anthropologists, teachers, academics, actors, artists, and the monitoring and evaluation team also was predominantly comprised of young Nove professionals who traveled throughout the Comarca territory, which represents more than 10% of Panama's national territory, to supervise program implementation and also collect data that was critical for the impact evaluation.
So great. That's so great. So thank you so much, Cynthia, Emma, and Anna. Right? And we just hope that this project continues to grow. The recognition it's received already is inspirational. We hope to see it around the region in one form or another, one language or another. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think we're approaching the end of the ceremony. Thank you all so much for taking some time out in your afternoon to support the teams. I know, hold it closer to your mouth, Jordan. To support the teams and to learn a little bit about the incredible work in diversity and equity inclusion that we are bringing to our clients, bringing to our countries. I'd also like to extend thanks to the group of colleagues who made this edition of the DEI Awards possible, as well as to the jury who made the challenging decisions, Judith, Andres Consuegra, Alan Cato, Bismarck Parajon, Denise Salabie, Natalia Laguyas, and Claudia Piras. Thank you. Wow. That was very good how you held off your applause until the end. It seems like you've been to many of these ceremonies before. I appreciate that. I also want to take the opportunity to let all of our participants and staff know how proud the management of the IDB is to see our organization filled with these incredible professionals like you that are passionate about making a difference in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. We see this as really the foundation of our focus on development effectiveness and on impact. So thank you. Your contributions to our organization and to the countries we serve show that a commitment to respect, inclusion, and transparency are critical components for development and growth. Just a general observation that diversity, equity, inclusion will always be, and should always be at the center of our work. It defines a large part of what we mean by caring for all the people quality of life of the people of our region. So we must continue to promote initiatives like the ones we shared today to continue having a positive impact and a source of inspiration and guidance for our clients to improve all the lives throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. So on behalf of the IDB Group, I'd like to extend our gratitude to everyone who turned out to our ceremony. To those online, feel free to applaud from your home and to celebrate these innovators and their great achievements. Thank you so much and have a great day.